755 is real with David O'Brien and Eric O'Flaherty.
Welcome back to 755 is real. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer for The Athletic, with my co-host Eric O'Flaherty out in Seattle. What's up, Eric?
What's up, Dave?
Not much, man. Baseball universe was centered around your fair city for a couple of days here this week for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Well, we'll welcome in our guest here first, and we'll talk about special guest back from Australia wearing another Australian Winter League championship ring.
I'll see it.
Exalted player coach, Pete Moylan. What's happening, Pete? Congrats,
I'm
man.
just strictly a coach these days, buddy. Come on.
Oh, you didn't pitch at all? You didn't get in at all?
No. I played a lot of catch and I threw a lot of BP, and my arm feels unbelievable. Just if anybody's listening and they feel like they need a late inning reliever that throws 81 miles an hour, I'm here.
Hey, they're deadening the ball. Maybe there's hope.
Pete,
did you come back?
Pete, did you take a shitload of analytics over there for your pitchers in Australia? Is that what the turning point was for them?
You know what's funny, Dave, is that we actually have a TrackMan at the stadium and we use Rapsodo on daily bullpens. So
How about that,
it's
man?
Everywhere, my friend.
How about that? Did you get on there yourself to see what your
I got on there when I got back.
to.
I got on there on Monday. Funny story, just because I want to understand it all. And I got on there and I threw like 4 sinkers and 10 sliders just to see what my thing did. And it was good to see it on the actual chart and see the separation and what you're trying to achieve by looking at all the numbers and the graphs. And it really helped for me to explain it to myself to get on there and actually do it.
So you can see the value of it then. Shape
100%, without question. But the one thing I am worried about is how reliant everybody is, no matter what level you're at. It's like they can't throw a bullpen unless there's a Rapsodo there and they could see the numbers.
Yep.
But yeah, it's interesting to see the guys learn what a good spin rate or a good spin efficiency feels like.
Yeah. And
be able to repeat it rather than just going up there and ripping the ball as quick as they can and then looking at the numbers and trying to make adjustments. I'm interested by it. I still am.
I had a person on one of the fantasy baseball writers at our place. We actually have those. He asked me about, is there any reason for concern with Ian Anderson because his spin rate ranked wherever, it's not real high in MLB and all this. And I was like, no, man. I mean, look at the results he got last year. He comes straight over the top. He doesn't look like hardly anybody else.
Right.
Fastball changeup look exactly the same coming out of his hand, and it's straight over the top. I mean, I don't care
it's not absolute.
Yeah. With a lot of pitchers, obviously it's important. Their spin rate is the key to what they do. But it's not everybody, right? I mean, it's not.
Well, my understanding is that the spin rate is just one facet of it. You've got the spin axis, you've got the spin efficiency, and spin rate tells part of the story, but the rest of it is what other pitches you throw based off what your fastball does.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the key is to be anything but MLB average on something. So if you've got an MLB average fastball, you want to have something else that allows you to be better without having to rely so much on just throwing heaters and heaters. There's guys that can throw fastballs. Nick Anderson can throw fastballs top of the zone and just throw it there all day.
Yep.
The big thing for me that I found out is that the vertical movement, which isn't necessarily actual movement. It's more what the depicted movement would have been had the ball gone directly with gravity as opposed to what the ball's doing with the vertical movement. That's the big thing that they're looking at now.
Yeah, and there's so much like direction to it, like guys that fly open and show the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You're losing, if you have a high spin rate and you're showing the ball, say 10 inches earlier than another guy. That's 10 more inches the hitter gets to see the ball. So it's not just what the ball itself doing. It's how you're delivering it and the angles you're putting into that too.
And a guy like Ian Anderson is 6'3", and he's coming straight over the top.
Yep.
I mean, that's a totally different angle than what people are seeing from other guys.
That's why his doesn't scare me, because he's got an angle that guys aren't used to and guys don't see well. And what he plays off of that angle with is, that's his whole game. So guys that have something a little different about him versus just the standard high 3/4 righty, it's going to play different. So, that's what I'm saying. Spin's not everything.
And you look at a guy like Moylan or Darren O'Day, late in his career, you look at the miles per hour, and
he went away from his 2-seam and went more to a 4-seam. So, and you can see where in his career that he decided to throw more 4-seams as opposed to 2-seams, and he's sort of just went up. He took off again. He reinvented himself.
Yeah, I've always thought sidearmers, unless you're down in the zone, you get that movement. But when you're sidearm, you almost get like an uphill trajectory to the zone, right? So that's why that 4-seamer plays better, because you get more of that ride when it's trajected that way versus throwing a 2-seamer all the time. When you miss up, it almost just flattens out and stays level. And that's when you get crushed. Especially
those guys that can that literally scrape the dirt with their hands. There's not many of them, but they are. It's almost coming up, right? I mean, it's totally opposite of what.
Yeah, so that's when spin rate's just kind of like whatever.
Huh. On a different subject, the huge contract this week, Tatis was the talk of baseball. 14 years, $340 million. I mean, if he stays there the whole time, it's actually a pretty good deal for both sides, obviously. He trades off, $50 million or whatever he could have made if he stayed healthy and he kept doing deals. And the Padres, provided they, start making money and continue to make money, they get one of what should be one of the best players in baseball for his entire career. But, I mean, it's still a gamble. Obviously, you think, you know the guy, you're going to know the kid before you give a deal like that, but he's still a kid. We just don't know what he's going to be like 7 years from now, right? Now, what did you guys think? Were you surprised by the length of that deal? 14 years.
No, I wasn't. I think at his age, what is he, 23, 22, 21?
22. He's 22. This season he's 22.
You got to wait this way. It's do you take the gamble now at age 21 based on what he's done already, or do you wait? No one's going to wait till the guy's 32 and give him a 10-year deal like you're seeing at the end of Pujols' deal right now. So this is the difference, and this is the way that the game is going. And I think you're going to see a lot more contracts like this, not in Seattle, but you're going to see a lot more contracts like this throughout the league. And I just think it's a massive gamble, but so he's given a 32-year-old a 10-year deal.
Yeah, he just turned 22, by the way, last month.
Yeah.
I think the organization obviously knows him. They've known him for 5 years. And I think his dad, having a dad in the game and his dad and all that too, that probably helps their confidence too, that this kid is not going to go astray and become an idiot, and all that. I'm sure that
he could though. I mean, that's the biggest risk probably is just he just shuts it down mentally. Now, if you watch, look at the talent Hanley Ramirez had coming up. That's one of the most talented players I've ever seen, and his career just turned out okay when he probably could have been a Hall of Famer.
But the difference is nobody would have ever even thought of giving him that kind of deal because of the personality.
Well, that's why he got traded before he even got to the big leagues. Yeah,
and got Freddie fired.
Yeah.
So what is your guys' prediction, if you have one, if you've thought about it at all, for the Freddie Freeman contract extension? And I'm assuming you're both as certain as I am that it's going to get done. I have no doubt, no question in my mind that it gets done soon.
I think you got to look at something like a Goldschmidt as the low, because I mean, let's be honest, he's been better than him, especially recently.
Recently.
So
yes.
I think 5'6", 160, 180, something like that. It has to be. I mean, he's top 3 baseballer in the world right now.
Yeah. I would have thought Goldschmidt's contract a year ago would have been the blueprint, but I think Freddie would be an MVP, and his stock has moved up, and now you see on MLB's top 10 now, and he's top 5 player.
Yeah.
And he
has been. We've all known that for 5 years.
And he's the kind of guy whose body should allow him to play. I think, unlike Goldschmidt. He doesn't scare me. I think Goldschmidt's best years are probably behind him. I think Freddie's still got 5 great years in him. So I think you're right. I think that's probably the base. I used to think that'd probably be the contract. I didn't think you'd get much more than that from the Braves, but I think you're right. He'd probably get $20 million more than that.
At some point, the Braves have got to spend some money, though.
Yeah. Well, they're going to spend it on him, but they don't have to spend it on Acuna. That's the guy they were going to have to.
God, dude.
Amazingly.
I'm just. It's hard to knock back 100 million. Obviously, it's hard and I will never be in that situation. I don't know what it's like, but he's got to be looking around right now and thinking, well, okay, what's Juan Soto going to get? That's
if he were to do it now, it's going to go up because, if it's going to go up, they've tried to do it and it didn't really go anywhere so far.
It's got Boris though, right?
And I'm sure they would. Yeah, it's not going to do a deal like that because Boris is going to tell him. Boris is going to show him, here's where Tatis erred and here's what he could make. And that's what Boris is going to convince him to do and take 5 years or 7 years or whatever, for $250 million.
Boris got to be pretty convincing though if you're his client.
Yeah.
Because if I'm Soto and I'm thinking there's $300 million out there to grab, what's up, Scott?
I know. So I could make $400 million instead of $300. So what? How is that going to help me? That's going to help 4 generations down in my family, I guess.
Yeah,
but it's also going to help the next generation of baseball players too.
Oh yeah,
the more of these cheap contracts that guys sign, it's harming the next generation of big leaguers. Acuna.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point because Acuna's didn't hurt Tatis at all.
Right. Yeah.
Nope. Acuna's and Aussies, I added it up, and it was like, the Aussies is even worse than Acuna if you keep him, the whole 9 years. And I mean, it's just insane. But the two of them together, 10 years with the options picked up, that is 19 seasons, the two of them, and it's about half the total of what Tatis will make in 10 years.
For 2 players, for 2 all-star players.
2 players, and Acuna might be right there with Tatis as 2 of the best 3 young players in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's right there with him,
Yeah, those 3 guys, Soto, Acuna, and Tatis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They all, you could make an argument for each of them. Tatis might be the best all around.
Yep.
Maybe. Soto, the best pure hitter.
Yep.
No doubt. Acuna, the one with maybe the highest upside with the power, and the speed. I don't know. Maybe that's the way it is. I don't know who's better, really.
I don't know either. They were so different. I just remember the one that at bat that Soto had off Verlander in the playoffs, and he took him oppo in Houston. I was just like, this kid's unreal.
Yeah, I think he's the best pure hitter for sure.
I don't think there's any question about that.
No.
Jesus, he doesn't strike out. He hits for power. He hits for high average. I mean, this kid is a polished hitter.
And he takes show takes too, where he grabs the sack and just lets them know. It's great.
I love him. I love.
It'll be interesting though, because a big thing for him is that opposite field power. If they really are deadening the balls, which I mean, you got to see how it plays out. But that's not Nationals Park's not an easy place to go oppo. And you've seen guys just going like 15, 20 rows deep to opposite field either way. It'll be interesting to see how guys' approaches change and how the game changes with the ball not jumping out of the park like it has been.
Well, the difference they're saying is probably only going to be a couple of feet.
They said that though when it started jumping out by
Well, they used 2
rows.
sets of balls. That comes out. That's finally proven.
So they've announced that already? They've said that they finally have admitted that they were okay.
The study showed
tinkered.
The study showed it. There's 2 sets of balls that were composed differently, which is not a surprise to any of us, right? I mean, there were games, there were series where you watched them and you're like, the ball's flying tonight. And then other ones where, I thought that ball's gone. That ball, there's 5 home runs that you thought were going to be home runs that aren't in some games. And then others where the ball just carried and carried.
Well, like when you see Marcus Stroman taking Julio deep on a fastball off the plate, it's like the balls are getting out of control here.
What was it at Philly? The ones Acuna hit? I mean, he can hit them anywhere,
straight
obviously.
Up, yeah.
But those, they just kept carrying that day, the doubleheader day.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember some of the balls that Ryan Howard used to hit, though? Like, he used to hit balls like that.
Oh, my God. But he was a man.
Yeah, he's 6'7", 250.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Were you guys
Philly's
there?
A hitter's park.
Were you guys on the team the day that he hit the 3 off Huddy?
Yes.
No, I don't think I was.
Huddy couldn't get him out.
Huddy
could not get him out.
Oh my God, that guy was.
And Derek Lowe would just throw him 27 curveballs in a row.
That's my favorite thing. Maybe one of my favorite things I've ever seen happen in baseball. We didn't know. Ryan Howard was kicking our ass, and D'Lo came in and just said, "I'm going to throw him nothing but curveballs for the rest of my life." And he did it. He threw him I don't think he threw him a fastball until his 70th pitch against him, and just kept getting him out.
That's how guys pitch now. That's like
Yeah.
you've got to find what is your point of difference and just exploit it. Like if I was pitching now, I would throw 75% sliders without a doubt in my mind.
Yep.
That would be the way that I would pitch. But that's another reason why the game's changed is that they're so good now at because of the measuring tools. They're so good at finding what you do that's different and what you can do to be successful, and they just exploit it till it dies.
Yeah, it used to be a pride thing too, establishing your fastball. And coaches telling you needed to establish your fastball. You have to establish your fastball. Now you got starters throwing like 12 sliders in the first inning.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So analytics can help a guy who maybe of lesser intelligence become like a Greg Maddux. He didn't need analytics to tell him, what to do against hitters. He just in his head, it was so analytical. But maybe a guy that's not
also
quite
had pitches
as bright.
that moved 3 feet. He didn't throw one thing that didn't
the
move.
backdoor slider.
He wasn't just pumping 88 mile an hour straight fastball.
But maybe a guy who is not quite as intuitive or whatever. Analytics can really help a guy like that, right? Here's what you need to be throwing this guy. Here's why, and then show him. And show him on a video. Yeah. This is what
And there's no pride getting in the way. There's no. You got to throw a 2-0 fastball. You got to challenge guys. All that stuff. It's the ego's gone, and if you just want to spam sliders for 5 innings, you're allowed to do it now. Where that would have been kind of frowned upon, even developing. I think guys coming up through the minors are even allowed to do that now.
That's interesting. How it would have been.
I said for the first time this year as a coach that, and I'd never said this in my life, was that we're going to work up in the zone. Like it was, I was, even when I was say it, it's been so drilled into me for my whole life that you got to hit the knees, work the knees and below. Now all of a sudden I'm telling guys to throw fastball at the top of the catcher's mask. Like
even 2-0, you see a catcher set up in the zone now. And I'd never seen that in my life till about 2 years ago. I saw a catcher set up and away for a fastball in a strike count. Not trying to, you used to call high fastballs, but you were calling them as a chase pitch.
0-2, yeah.
Now guys are locating up in the zone. I mean, the game's just been completely flipped. A lot of that's the hitter's approach changing too, though.
True, and you've got to rely on umpires calling that pitch too. That's something that I found in Australia,
Impossible.
And I'm sure other leagues as well, is that they're reluctant to call that top of the zone pitch. Yeah,
even if you hit the glove, which shouldn't be. Which what we were taught, the glove should never be up there in the first place. But I mean, you're seeing a 2-0 fastball glove up in the zone, and guys are painting. That's something that, I mean, it would take me probably 2 to 3 months of bullpens of locating up in the zone to be able to command the upper part of the strike zone. Because you only practice that as a pitcher. You only practice balls up in the zone. The catcher call a couple during your bullpen, and they set up like this, and you just make sure you don't throw it in the zone. But now guys are dotting up the top of the zone. It's weird.
How much?
The only time I threw up in the zone was for a pitch out.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much of that is the velo increase and does launch angle affect that at all with the hitters?
That's what I'm saying. I think it's the hitter's approach. Sinker used to be the money pitch.
Yeah.
And guys are given the freedom as hitters to train themselves to hit the ball in the air and lift the low ball and lift everything. But what that does to their bat path is it makes it harder to get to that ball in the top of the zone. So it's kind of just, the cat and mouse game that's been played forever. But I mean, hitters took that first step, and now pitchers are kind of fighting back.
Speaking of pitchers fighting back, did you happen to see the Vandy boys the other night?
Oh man,
Rocker and Leiter.
They're nasty.
I mean, we are.
That love that Rocker dude.
Holy cow, those guys are. They are. That's the best show. That's the best ticket in baseball right now. Holy cow.
Well, remember the video, Eric, last winter with Leiter. That video from behind the batter.
Yep.
Man, that dude's scary looking off the mound.
I think he's going to be the first pick.
Over Rocker?
Yeah.
How about if they go 1-2? Would that be something?
First two.
They're going to be something.
Wow. It's just going to be a preference, though. I don't think you can go wrong with either guy, but
yeah,
I always like somebody that their dad played or something like that. I mean, look at Tatis.
Al Leiter's stuff on, I think, he can be a little wordy, but his stuff on MLB Network, some of my favorite stuff. That guy has a really good way of explaining it. He could be a hell of a coach.
He loves it.
Yeah, loves it still. Gets fired up still.
Yeah. I don't know how guys keep bringing that energy. Wish I had it. Yeah.
I covered him when he was with the Marlins, and he's got more energy doing this than he did. Not that he didn't then, but I mean, I never could have predicted this. that he'd be doing this 15, 20
Speaking of energy, though, you know what's crazy to me is that guys get on Rapsodo and throw these bullpens inside, and they're throwing at the same velocity that they would in a game. Whereas I would never. I think we talked about this before. I would literally throw my last warm-up pitch every single day as hard as I possibly can and turn around and look at the radar gun and it'd be 84 every single time.
Man, it's the craziest thing. That happens every time. I don't know how they get into that gear. Maybe they're just cleaner with their mechanics, but I needed a hitter to step in the box. I did the same thing.
Right.
You'd always kind of peek at that gun to see what you had that day, and you could throw that last warm-up pitch, everything you got, and you look up there and it says 87. You're like, shit, I'm in trouble. And then the hitter steps in. I would have taken
87, man.
Yeah. Hitter steps in. First one's 92, 93. And it's just something about a hitter being in the box. But, yeah, they're able to bring that intensity to bullpens.
Pete, what would you
think?
We're
doing a lot more. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
What would you think if you were a pitching coach or a manager or and you saw the video of one of your pitchers in December drive line at one of their little ancillary things they have where they take them. They have a couple around the country now, right? But if you saw one of your guys crow hopping and throwing 106 in December, is that a concern at all, or is that like
power to you?
Just part of the training?
That's all people see. They build in all the recovery days and all that stuff too, where it's almost like a lifting program. If you see a guy squat 400 pounds, he's not doing that every day. I did that whole program and my arm honestly never felt better. And I was a huge skeptic. I didn't want to give it any credit. When I saw Bauer doing his shit before his debut, we were all just laughing, looking at that TV in the clubhouse, because he was long tossing from foul pole to foul pole.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about keeping your arm in shape. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's the amount of throws. For me, it's just more the mechanics and what you're doing to it and how you're moving. Mm-hmm. But like shit, look at what me and Moylan were doing. We were throwing 70 games in the season, and then we threw another 70 in the pen.
Yeah.
And my arm never felt better then either. I love being off the mound and pitching every day.
I was just going to say, one thing that I would, towards the end of my career, I'd try and protect and, save my bullets. And I wouldn't play catch on off days. I wouldn't play catch on, certain days. You just try and limit the amount of throwing that I did. But I found even at 41 that when I played catch every single day and throw BP and like my arm felt better. It felt better than it's felt in a long time just by throwing a lot more. So I've sort of changed my attitude a little bit too.
Well, we had Leo on here a couple of weeks ago, and that was Leo's whole philosophy: throw more at less, with less, but throw more. And I mean, you can't argue with the results. I know he had 3 Hall of Fame pitchers, but they never got hurt.
Yeah.
They threw 2 bullpens. They threw 2 bullpens between starts the whole time they were here. Tom Glavine said he was skeptical. Glav said he was skeptical when he brought it, but it worked. You know? What they did worked.
I look at it as almost like indoor long toss. I prefer long toss over those. I don't like throwing into a close target because I feel like you don't get feedback on the carry of your ball or the angle you're throwing at. If you throw into
this or doing this,
you can't see that. And so the direction and like what Ian Anderson's good at is his direction. Everything is clean and direct and straight right through the ball. I couldn't do that to a close target. I had to long toss. I had to stretch it out. But when you talk about, the wear and tear on your arm, we used to long toss every day, every single day. Like my best seasons, I was throwing with Scott Linebrick or Kimbrel. We were going from the foul line to the warning track at least. And what it does is it teaches you to throw hard easy. That's why I'm a huge fan of long toss. Is just you get your amplified feedback. As the ball carries 300 feet, you can see what your angles were and what the ball's doing. And that's the only thing I don't like about all these guys just throwing as hard as they can into a close target. When I got off the mound after doing all the driveline stuff, I couldn't throw a strike to save my life because my direction.
Wow.
I didn't have to. My direction wasn't a priority when I was making those throws. Mm-hmm. And then I got off the mound, and all of a sudden, these little things that you're doing wrong, and you don't see that negative feedback of that I yanked the ball or I pushed it. It made it that much harder for me to throw strikes. But that might just be my personal thing because it seems like a lot of guys it doesn't even faze them.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I would try and throw to your point, my whole goal when I got out to 120 feet was to try and throw it as easy as I possibly could to make
easy
that carry.
And far. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a couple of the driveline guys, the Braves guys that have stuck with it, for several years now. Command has been an issue. I mean, Mueller, the dude is a beast, and he throws 100, but he's just got to command it a little better. And I mean, that's the only thing keeping him away from the big league so far. But we'll see. I mean, he's promising. Him and Tucker Davidson both were, they're big advocates of driveline, and they were. The video. I asked Snit about the video he saw of those guys this year, and he said, "Well, it's just sides, but they look good." So
yeah.
We'll see.
And there's more programs out there too. There's more way. You got to choose and find what suits you. And it's if a weighted ball is one thing, there's going to be something that you find that clicks for you, and you've just got to be comfortable. But again, if you can't throw strikes and you can't get anyone out, then it doesn't really matter what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a guy saying something about 95 is not cool anymore the other day, and I'm like, man, if you can't get out with 95 is not the problem. Like 95 will always be a good enough fastball to pitch in the big leagues.
I step in on a lot of guys too, just to see it, and oh man, hitting's hard, man. This is what pitchers have to understand, is that it is not easy to hit. And just stand in on someone else's bullpen. You don't have to be right in close, but just be within a couple of feet of home plate and the proper distance, 60 feet 6 inches. It gets on you quick, and that's not even trying to look for a wrinkle.
Every stadium should have a 90-mile-an-hour station where you pay $5 and you sign a waiver and you get in and try to hit 95-mile-an-hour fastballs, just so when you go back to your seat, you appreciate it more.
And they could what they could even do is put a little piece of plexiglass right up too, because then you'd see it. You'd see it right on you and get a feel for it, like that video of Leiter,
Yeah.
That's what I liked about it, is it gave you a real good feel for it because it was taken right from the batter position of the batter.
Yeah, and you could see the ball just take off in different directions at the last second when you've already decided to swing.
Speaking of crack of the bat, smell of the leather, spring training beginning. What did you guys, we romanticize that, fans do, some media do, the spring training, time of renewal and hope every year. What was the first thing you thought of when you started thinking of spring training coming soon, or when you got there? I mean, for a player,
where I'm going to play golf.
For a player, is it different when you start your career than it is later when you get into your career? Is it exciting initially?
No, I hate spring training.
Yeah,
I mean,
I loved it.
It's better now, but it used to just be so much standing around in cleats. It was almost just like you broke even on the day.
Snit has done a good job picking up what his mentor did, Bobby, as far as not having guys do that so much as a lot of teams do. They get in and get out. Snit is a real proponent of that, of following the Bobby Cox schedule. Get in and get out as fast as you can, and not have pitchers stand around forever doing nothing.
Well, I used to keep pitchers there just because pitchers have so much less work to do. Mm-hmm. A lot of organizations just fill your time, so they have you go to field 27 and do some more PFPs or cover first like 15 more times, and you don't get anything out of it. They just don't want to see pitchers leaving at 10 and the position players are grinding until like noon. But Bobby had the best camp ever. We used to be at Bobby's camp. I remember Javier Vasquez running in the outfield. We were done at like 8:45, and he was like, "Shit, man, I feel like I should be giving my meal money back or something. This is so easy compared to what I'm used to." But it never had any effect on the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, his starters were on the golf course by noon.
Yeah, and he was cool with
noon.
it.
They played 2 rounds. They get the first tee time at 10 a.m. They'll be on the second tee time by 3.
Yeah.
The initial excitement of spring training is what I used to love, like the rocking up and seeing everyone again, and see it, that everyone starts at 0. It's like everyone feels like they have a chance, and especially like the early springs for me were just such a kind of, it was like I'd come from the WBC. And it was just, everything was so new, and I was trying to learn everything. But towards the end, it was like, okay, well, this is spring. This is what it's like. You got used to your routines. You got used to who you stay away from, who you get close to. And but yeah, it's a little long still for me.
It's too long.
But obviously this year's a lot different. I think the season's going to sneak up on guys too, with the going from 60 games to 162. It's going to be a grind about midway through. But I think spring training could be shortened a little bit, and we might see that probably the next couple of years.
I think a lot of the stuff that you liked about it too, they're not being able to enjoy this year because of COVID, and the restrictions. They can't get there, hang out, eat breakfast together inside, talk. They have to eat outside and come and stagger their arrival time. So I guess the sucky parts are probably worse. And the good
how long?
parts.
How long do you think this is? This will be the last year that they have to do these sort of restrictions?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if it's not, it's a total disaster. This program, the vaccinations and all that, unless the variants just overtake. But I mean, this time next year, I would think they'd be able to have a normal spring training. But we'll see.
I'm also interested to see what happens with those guys that were made their debut last year in front of no fans, and all of a sudden maybe they go to a stadium with 25, 30,000 people, and they're trying to get the same job done.
That's the biggest hurdle.
That plays out. Yeah,
I think it's going to be ideal in that it's going to be such a slow return of the fans. They're going to start with a small percentage. So the guys like Ian Anderson who made their debut against the Yankees and then pitched at Fenway Park in his second game. They're not going to go from that to 40,000 people. So it's going to be kind of good for them. It's going to be kind of a transition period this year. They're not going to go straight to.
They already got the answer. They can pitch in this league too.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Yeah, the outside stuff kind of overwhelms you, and then you're distracted, so you get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they got to jump into the league without that. And now they know they can pitch in the league. That's a huge benefit. And
that upper deck was there, even if there weren't people in it. It was there, when they were pitching that backdrop and all that. And then they also got the ones, the Braves and the teams that made it to the LCS.
Yeah.
Did play in front of fans in the World Series. So they have that advantage going. So there was some excitement there. It was pretty, some decent amount of noise there too with the roof and all that.
That was still only like 10,000 though?
Yeah, it wasn't many, but it was, it's pretty good between the piped in noise and the crowd and I think the roof was closed at times. I think it got pretty loud, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting though. It's going to be very interesting. What do you guys think of this bullpen? You had the deepest bullpen. I wouldn't say it was the best, but it was one of the best. But it was the deepest bullpen last year. I mean, it was basically 10 deep last year because of the expanded rosters, and they had arms on arms and arms. And now you lose Melanson, Shane Green, and Darren O'Day. But at the same time, you got a guy like Jacob Webb who wasn't ready at the start of last year, and he was really impressive again when he came back. You're adding him obviously from day one. And at this time a year ago, we had no idea that AJ Minter was going to come back from because the preseason he'd been spent most of the year in AAA, got demoted. And also Tyler Matzik was coming from indie ball, and it was total question mark. Nobody had he wasn't even in major league camp last year. He was on the minor league side, fence jumper.
Yeah.
This year he wouldn't even have been on because they have like 65 people in camp. He wouldn't even have been one of the people in camp because they're starting a minor league camp. It's not going to start
April 1st.
A ball and double A until these guys leave. So they're going to have those two guys from day one. Anyway, what do you guys think of this Braves bullpen? How good it could be? Do they still need a right-hander?
I think they're still going to go out and get someone. I honestly, I don't think they're done. I think there's too many guys that are on the free agent market right now.
Shane Green's one of them.
I just think, he is one of them. But I mean, the fact that he's still unsigned is crazy to me. But he must be asking for 4 or 5 years.
That's all I can think of.
Jeremy Jeffries took a minor league deal.
That's unreal, man.
Yeah.
Shane must be asking for a multi-year deal. I can't imagine any other reason why he's not signed yet.
But he deserves a multi-year deal. Like he deserves a 3-year something. But this is. I don't know. The relievers are the last guys to sign, I guess, and I guess because the adjustment period, they can sign in the middle of March and still be ready for the start of the season.
Yeah.
They're getting their work in now. But I think they need one extra piece. But I also think that if they don't get that piece, they're going to be fine. Will Smith will probably close, and you got, as you said, Matzik and Minter. You never really know until the start of the season kicks in. You see what these guys are going to do. If they start hot, then they could roll for the rest of the season and be fine. But if they get in a bit of trouble early, then the confidence is down, and all of a sudden you get that thing that you had in 2018 or 2017 where the bullpen sucks and we got to replace everyone. So
I think they could use a right-hander, but they got tons of lefties. I mean, and then we're not even talking about a guy like Newcomb who could be a long guy, or Huascar Inoa, who was really impressive last year. So I think they could use a guy like Green to add him on a 1-year deal. I think Green will end up taking a 1-year deal for way less than he's probably asking, but we'll see.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, if he was to take a 1-year deal right now, what do you think it would be? 9, 11?
I think it'd be
3.
less. Yeah,
$3 million.
I'm thinking 3 to 5 million probably at the most.
Come on, oh.
No, that's what they're sitting on.
They're getting screwed.
And
the relievers are getting screwed.
These are the guys that get wrecked by.
Yep.
One, the teams are mad. The teams are mad at everybody
Yep.
for all the crap with the labor negotiations, playing the full season, all the stuff that happened last year. The guys that are going to wear it, and the guys that always do wear it, are the relievers that aren't closers, the non-superstar type of players. So I'm sure his agents try to be patient, but I bet he winds up with 1 year's 3 or 4.
I agree.
That would be criminal.
You've been a free agent.
Look at some of the other deals that guys have signed, though.
When there's no competition for you, man, I mean, you get to a point where you're just happy to get a major league deal.
I know Melanson's a lot older, but he had a hell of a season last year. Look at the deal he took.
Yep, 1 year 3 as a closer.
I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if he's going to close.
And then you got Hendricks that signs a 3-year 56 or 54.
The guys at the very top, the 3 or 4, they got their money. But the guys, the guys that are fungible, as they say, are.
I was setting this trend years ago. I didn't sign anything but minor league deals for 2012.
You were at the forefront, man.
I ruined it for everyone. I'm sorry, guys. I waited as long as I could, but once it got to March, you started to get a bit antsy.
Eric, what do you think? What do you think of this bullpen? And also, the other thing I didn't point out is it's not going to have to be as deep either, because starters are getting ramped up. They're normal. Up. They're going to be able to go. Last year they were leaving in 3 or 4 innings most nights, the starters.
Yeah, so you knew you needed at least. It was nice having those extra roster spots, but you needed at least 2 guys in your pen that could go long. I guess if you're the Braves, what is the difference between Jacob Webb's potential and what you're getting out of Shane Green? I mean, I think that right now they're just willing to chance it and see what they get out of a few guys. Yeah. Versus, I mean, if it's up to me, I always want certainty in my pen, because young guys, man, you lose your confidence in the pen, you're good for a 7 ERA before you even know what happened. Things can fall apart so quick. And the thing you respect about a guy like Melanson, Shane Green, is they found a way to get through those ups and downs and always be pretty consistent and give you something. But yeah, I think that's what the Braves are looking at, is just, they feel like Smith can close. And if he can't close, look at what Minter did last year. So they weren't worried about losing Melanson.
Chris Martin.
So basically, you got a lot of guys ready to take that next step, and you almost don't want to block them. But like I said, me personally, I'm taking as many sure things, reliable guys in my pen as I can get.
Yeah, you got those 4. They're rock solid, obviously. They're the 4 that are the 3 lefties and Chris Martin. And then you got Tomlin, you signed early because you like what he brings to your pen. You got Jacob Webb. You got guys like Enoa. You got Newcomb. You got a lot of arms.
Luke Jackson could bounce back,
Yeah, Luke Jackson signed. It's one of those ARB deals. It's not guaranteed, but yeah, he's they're counting on him too. They're planning on him too. So,
and the good news there, lefties can get righties out. You don't have any special lefties down there. You got Minter can get anybody out. Matzik can blow his fastball by righties. Will Smith can throw a slider to anybody. So it's not necessarily like they have to have a righty. It'd just be nice to have.
Yeah. What would you? I think this Braves coaching staff is one of the best in baseball, and because of, I just think they got really lucky and with some of the hires, how they fit together. But they got a bunch of former players, so they got this mix of. They're mostly a little bit older guys. They're old school, but they've all been willing to adapt. I think Snit is the one that set the tone with that. Here's a guy that's been in baseball with the Braves 40-some years. He's a 60-some-year-old guy, 64. But he's a guy that has been able to adapt to these younger players. I don't know that Bobby would have, because that wasn't Bobby's thing. But and Bobby is his mentor. But Snit knew or saw the writing on the wall and didn't try to change these guys like Acuna. They embraced their version of Big Papi, which is Marcell Ozuna, and they've let these guys flourish and be themselves. And all these coaches have followed along the same lines. Guys like Walt Weiss is a hard ass, but you don't see him taking guys aside. They don't do that selfie thing, So I think they've got one of the best coaching staffs in baseball. I really do. And I think Seitz is a great hitting coach. I really do. And they added Mags from AAA, the hitting coach, that all the young guys, he's fixed so many guys. He's the one that had Austin Riley in Babe Ruth mode when he first came up to baseball, up to the majors 2 years ago. Now you've added Chipper Jones, who I think we all agree brings a lot to the table. He's a part-time technically, but I think this guy might have a bigger impact than anybody. On some young hitters and not just younger, but older hitters. So he's a guy like with Freddie struggling a little bit. 10 words from his buddy, his mentor Chipper, might be the key. That maybe Freddie slump doesn't last 4 or 5 days, maybe it lasts 2. But the young guys I'm looking at, I'm thinking a switch hitter like Ozzie Albies, it's just going to be invaluable having Chipper, who's worked with Ozzie one-on-one, but when Ozzie was in the minors. Austin Riley, Dansby. Man, he had Dansby on a huge start a couple of years ago after working with Chipper down at spring training. I think it's going to be a huge hire for the Braves. Even though he's a part-time technically, won't be in the dugout during the games. He'll be with the guys home games from like the time they arrive at the ballpark until first pitch.
I think the key with Chipper is that, there's been a lot of good hitters that have tried to be a hitting coach. Mm-hmm. Barry Bonds tried to do it. I didn't hear a lot of guys screaming about how good a hitting coach was, but the ability for Chipper to explain hitting, not just look at what I did and do the same thing. He explains it in a way that guys understand, and it's invaluable. I remember Mac and like everybody, I feel like used to go to Chipper when they were struggling to get in the cage for a couple of minutes, and it's just the lights would go off, and he'd be able to just say something or do something to them, and even if it's not the secret sauce that you're giving them, if they think that something's changing, then that's all that needs to happen.
Yeah, that's all coaching is. It's just giving you a reason to believe you're going to do better half the time. Giving you something to feel good about. Even sometimes you make the wrong adjustment, but your confidence goes up because you got this adjustment you believe in. But with Chipper. I'm sure you were the same, Moylan. If Chipper was ever talking baseball, I would just shut down what I was doing and just kind of loiter just in the area and just listen to what he was saying. And it made me a better pitcher to hear some of the stuff he was saying about bat pass and how the ball was going and what pitches you could swing at, what you can do, approach stuff. I mean, he's the best baseball mind I've ever been around. So it's one of those things, if you're the Braves, you just take whatever he can give you, and him being willing to actually commit to a job versus just kind of showing up when he feels like it. Because all that stuff he did with Dansby or other guys was just voluntary, him just loving the game and feeling like helping a guy. But now you got him committed to being around all the time, and it has to rub off.
Mm-hmm. And he's been away from it. He had his toe in it, but that was it. They'd say, "Hey, can you go down to AA and work with Ozzie on his left-handed swing or whatever?" Now he's going to be there every day, and he says, I'm ready. He wants to. He was in a broadcast booth for a year, and once Boog left, because he was debating whether to go back to ESPN or not anyway. He didn't like the whole broadcasting from home thing. That's not what he signed up for. But once Boog left for the Cubs, Chipper's like, that's it. I don't want to do that again. I want to it's time to have a little bigger role with the Braves and be in uniform. It feels like there's no doubt in his mind that he's into this thing. So I think when he's there, you guys have been around, and when he's there, it's not like he's going to be fully invested when he's there at the ballpark.
Yeah, and you'll hear the stories too. I mean, there's going to be so many guys that you just hear Chipper said this or got me right with this one little, I spent 10 minutes with him, we did this, or we've been working really hard on this and it took a while to marinate. There's going to be throughout the season, it's going to be impossible to measure how much of a difference he makes. But I mean, I'm just real excited to see how the team does offensively with him just around.
I think what Moylan said hit the nail on the head is the way he explains it. It's unlike anybody else I've been around. I mean, even a layman like me who didn't play ball at even a minor league level, the way he can explain hitting, it you're like, yeah.
Makes you feel like you could go dominate.
Yes. I understand exactly what you're saying. And whereas you're talking about like Barry Bonds was with the Marlins and none of the Marlins credited him with doing that I'm aware of. Ted Williams, arguably the greatest pure hitter of all time, was a hitting coach for a while, and it didn't really work because he got frustrated that guys couldn't understand what he was saying or follow. Here's what I did, and Chipper doesn't do that. Yeah, Chipper doesn't go. why can't you backspin the ball like I did and just hit it out when you're 40 years old? You can't do that.
Yeah, it's his understanding of the swing and understanding
Yeah.
the points you got to get to and things you got to do. And, everybody has a different swing. And that's probably the number one flaw coaches have is they have like a cookie cutter approach where they have their method they teach. And then they come across a guy that's funky and doesn't do stuff the way they teach it. And they try to change them to throw or hit the way they did it. The best coaches are able to look at what you do and figure out how to make your personal delivery or your swing the best version of it. And I think that's probably what he's best at is just understanding everybody's got a different swing, but understanding how to just make their swing the best version of it.
And I think that's why he's a good guy to have as assistant for Seitz, because that's how Seitz does it. He doesn't try to change guys. And Seitz wouldn't want a guy coming in whose philosophies butted heads with his. But Chipper he talked about when he worked with Dansby, they met a couple times in the winter and said, all right, when we get to spring training, I'm going to be down there for this week and we're going to work on this. And he had a couple of drills where if Dansby got out of sorts once Chipper was gone, he had a couple of drills that Dansby could go back to that regarding his back foot, the way it was sliding, the way he was coming out. And the drills were so simple, but they worked. And Dansby that year started out on fire before he got hurt, but he looked like a different guy that year.
I remember him torching a few balls in Colorado that year.
Yeah.
And just being like, that's a different hitter.
Opposite field power again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, I think they're the only team in baseball with 4 hitting coaches now.
Well, it's got to be the right group to pull that off.
Yeah.
No kidding. Oh, have you ever had drills that you did to get yourself back right? Or was it more just physical and mental cues that you'd have? Like there's pitches. We can't really jump down into the bullpen and say, all right, I'm just going to throw 20 pitches just to figure something out. We've almost got to rely on while you're doing it, being able to make adjustments in the middle of a game, as opposed to jumping in the cage and taking 50 hacks or doing a T drill or I guess that's the biggest difference between pitching and hitting it right now. Right?
Limited reps. You only get so many reps to really practice it. I had cues. I had things that, I could tell that if the ball cut, I didn't get extension. I need to stay back longer. If the sink seemed like it happened way too early out of my hand, I knew I was flying open and pushing the ball. I had those things that I learned. And that's one of the reasons I hate how much video guys watch now, because it doesn't always look the way it feels. And when you're on the mound, you don't have a video to check real quick. You need to have that visual in your head of how it feels when the ball's coming out right. And that plays off of what you're saying with the Rapsodo stuff too, because you could throw a slider that you think is nasty, and then you read it on these programs, and you did cut it off, or you didn't get as much spin, or didn't have as much drop. But I had a lot of like just little cues that I could go to that I could make an adjustment pitch to pitch, and I'm not sure. Watching video, sometimes I'd look like shit on video, but I'd know the way it felt. I must have been doing something right, and I could stick with that. But I didn't have too many just straight towel drills or any kind of drills I do. It was more just you worked on it when you were playing catch in the day and tried to transfer it to the mound.
It's funny you say that, because the guy that I went and watched a few guys throw bullpens with, and he had all the Rapsodo stuff, but he talked about how now that they're leaving within a month to go to spring training, he won't show the guys their numbers. Yep. He'll make them guess as they're throwing to sort of make them know what it feels like, as opposed to relying on being able to see the numbers every single time. Yeah,
because you don't have that out on the mound. When you start getting in trouble, you don't get to check your spin rate.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, we alluded to the comments earlier from the now former Mariners president and CEO, Kevin Mather. To put it mildly, he showed it was the worst of this sort of comments, but he kind of showed how the sausage was made and spoke publicly about a lot of things that we suspect or that other CEOs might think.
We knew, Dave. We knew.
I like to think the game is changing and he is not evolving at all, but he said all the things that people suspect, and they were and not surprisingly, he was apologizing profusely once it went viral on Saturday, last weekend. He was out within like 12 hours once it went viral. These are comments he made about a month ago, I think. to a Rotary Club, which she was doing it, virtually online. But I don't know why anybody would say anything now that they don't believe is going to get it. Because anything you say online is going to get out now. But
yeah, you think this guy's keeping your secret?
anyway, the stuff that he said about service time manipulation and salaries and guys being overpaid and on and on. But I just first wanted to give you guys the kind of antithesis of that, which was Dayton Moore, old friend Dayton Moore, that used to be, assistant GM here with Braves for a long time under Sherholtz, has now been with the Royals, as you know very well. Moylan got signed you. He had some comments that I thought represented the other side, the good. I don't know how many guys, execs you guys think are like Dayton, but here's his comments. He was asked by LA Times' Bill Shaken on Tuesday about putting a competitive team together at this particular time in baseball's current climate. And here's what's Dayton's response. I'm just going to read it. He says, "We don't know any other way. We're trying to inspire people to follow your team. You're trying to inspire young people to be a part of this game and want to play this game. I think what we've always tried to do is be as competitive as we possibly can. Everybody will tell you whatever our budget is financially, we've taken it right to the max every single year. We've spent whatever has been given to us. It's really important to try to win each and every year." I remember having a conversation with Adam Wainwright many years ago. I had the same conversation with Khalil Lee when we did the Benintendi trade. I said, look, here's the deal. You're going to be a major league player someday. When you're in that clubhouse, you're going to realize you're one of 26 guys who has a very small window of opportunity to win a championship. And you're one of 26 guys who has a small window of opportunity to maximize the financial rewards of the game. So you're going to want to be a part of an organization and a team and ownership that's going to do everything they can to put the best team on the field to support those players and the coaching staff and manager who has to put their professional reputation on the line each and every night and answer questions multiple times a day about what went right and wrong. To be the great steward of the game and to continue to grow the game in the ways that are most healthy, you've got to bust your tail for the good of the players, the fans, the coaching staff, and ownership, and everybody surrounding the game, and put the best team you can on the field, period. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, but tell that to the 15 GMs that aren't trying this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if everybody saw it the way Dayton does, but I obviously everybody does not. And the culture is not the same everywhere else as it is with what Dayton's established over in Kansas City. And when he came from the Braves, that was the culture here too. Back when they spent with they were among the top spinners in baseball back then under Ted Turner. But that was what Dayton came up with Sherholtz as GM, and times have changed for everybody. But I think when you're at a small market like the Royals, who are a bona fide small market, that's the best attitude you can possibly have is the one Dayton has there. Would you agree?
Yes. And they're also, they went through a rebuild as well. From 2009 to 2015 or 14 or 13, whatever it was.
They went a lot of years without playoffs.
I don't know. I can't remember. I didn't pay a lot of attention to Kansas City back then, but I don't remember what they weren't very competitive for a few years. So
a lot of years.
I mean, that's all well and good to say that now that you've won a championship and you've been through the rebuild. And I love Dayton more than anything.
He wasn't there during most of that, obviously, when they sucked.
Well, yeah, he was. He left the Braves in 2008.
Right, but they had not won since Sherholtz was with the Royals 25 years ago. So, I mean, he wasn't there for all that.
You're right. So,
the desert.
That's a good point. Yeah. But I didn't know what their spend was on players throughout the lead up to 2014 when they went to the World Series and 15 when they eventually won it. So, was he got a lot of good draft picks, Moustakis and Hosmer and all these guys. So they obviously weren't doing very good on the field. But what he says is all the right things and what every single GM should think, but it's not the way they think.
But that's what they all say, I mean, I think that was the most shocking thing of the whole thing was just a guy coming out and just admitting to manipulating service time. Yeah.
Kevin Mather.
Kevin Mather just came out and said, no matter what these guys do, they're not on our opening day roster. And everybody knows that's the case with certain prospects when they're coming up.
Chris Bryant just lost the case.
you know there's no chance, and all they have to do is say something about development. And I heard DePoto on the radio today saying the same stuff about Kellenic, the guy that was in question that Mather pretty much said had no shot at making their opening day roster. And well, the thing is that those guys lost a lot of development last year, so this case could probably keep playing, but it's going to be hard if he hits 450 in spring training with 5 home runs or something like that, 10 homers, to keep him off the opening day roster now after him saying that. But if he hadn't said that, you could make up any bullshit you want and just say, he needs to work on his how he's fielding the ball in right field before he throws the home plate, and they can keep guys down for that. And
as much as if you're a Mariners, you're a player, you're pissed that that's what's happened in the past. You're also happy he said it, because now they have to be beyond reproach now, because everybody's going to be watching them. The scrutiny is going to be greater than with any team.
Well, they almost have to prove that he doesn't speak for them. So if he torches in spring training, that's probably why he got fired, because he could set him. He could have just lost him a year of a guy they're trying to keep for one more year. The rest of the stuff, I don't know if he would have got fired for, but admitting service time that openly and giving the union that angle, that's a tough look.
He cost him a lot of money in a lot of ways.
Same kid.
That's why he got fired.
The same kid just said in an article this morning that he's been offered a multi-year deal and he's being punished for not signing it.
But I don't think he's played above A ball.
Right. Well, either had
that's
who was
what
the
Mather said.
Philly?
Kingery.
I
think he was in AAA or AA.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Mather came out and said, that the guy, they had offered him some money and he had said that, he wanted to bet on himself and all that and didn't want to take it.
Right.
He bit his tongue at saying the numbers. I watched the whole thing. He almost said the numbers and then he stopped, because that would have hurt his point, I think. But it's not good for the game. And I don't know the language of the agreement. I think it's just a good faith agreement that you're going to put the best team out there, and when guys are ready, you're going to call them up. But how could you ever expect teams to give away a year of a guy? People are shocked that a president actually came out and said that, but everybody knew it was happening.
It's the way the rules are. It's the way the rules are written. It makes it hard to do, but it's just glaring in some cases, and never more so than with Chris Bryant. When a guy has done everything he can in the minors and then he has a great spring, you look like an idiot when you say he needs a little more seasoning.
His footwork at third base is a little sloppy. He hit 17 homers that spring.
Especially if you don't have anybody in that's playing well, an option in that position. That's when you look like you're not trying, that you care more about saving the money. If you've got a guy that's doing okay at that position, it doesn't look quite as bad, even if the new guy is obviously going to be better. But if you're losing games because of the guy you have there, it's a
tough look. But look at what we did with Hayward in 2010?
Opening day.
He made the team opening day. We made the playoffs by 1 game.
Yeah.
We made the playoffs the last day of that season.
He won us 6 out of the first 8 games we won.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, to the Braves' credit, they have the only obvious case where they did it, where they did roster manipulation. The one that comes to mind was Acuna.
Yeah.
But other than him, and
then they signed into extension the next year.
Yeah. But ultimately, it could have been an extra year of Acuna for keeping him down for a month, and that was the year people forget they really did get good left field play from the kid whose brother was with Tampa. I can't even remember his name. He actually played his ass off that year for a month before Acuna got there. What was his dad's name? His brothers, they're both from, his brother played at Florida. They're from Tampa.
I'm going to have to look that one up.
He's in Japan now. He played in Japan last year.
But he raked. I think he'd been with...
He was good. He was that year until he wasn't. Until he kind of fell off.
He raked right until Acuna was on his tail, and then he
He did. He started out strong. He won him a couple of games in the first 2 weeks. But anyway,
Tucker.
That was it. Tucker.
Preston Tucker.
Preston Tucker. Yeah, yep. He did pretty well.
Yeah. This was Mather. I'm looking at it. It was February 5th. He spoke to the Rotary Club, and it was out there. It was on YouTube, but nobody saw it on YouTube. And then somebody did and posted it on Twitter. And it's like, boom, it's over now.
Gone.
But yeah, he talked about, it was the Bellevue Rotary Club, and he just talked about, it was everything. He said all this stuff that's like, oh, dude, you don't say that publicly. What do you do? Are you drunk? But I don't think he was. I think he was just thinking it was going to be private,
Yeah,
talking
I'm
to
guessing
15
he's had that
people.
talk for years. I think
Yeah.
he's probably had that address and given him the real scoop behind the scenes type of stuff for years. And
He talked about
probably in a room. It was probably in a room without a Zoom camera,
Yeah, he talked about their financial situation, reduced payroll, last year, what a disaster it was for them financially, why they're so frugal in free agency. The two prospects, Jared Kelenic and Logan Gilbert last year that were left down because of service time constraints.
What about interpreters?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. See, the thing about that comment, what he was saying, I thought that one got taken out of context a little bit. He had no problem paying a translator for, was it Iwakuma? He's got a Japanese player that was going to be coaching for him. And he said he didn't want to pay a translator for a coach. But the thing that, that stood out to me is, and I guess you just get numb to it in baseball, but everybody's just talked about his property. It's like he was saying guys' English was shitty the same way you'd say this center fielder didn't have a good arm. Like just another tool of theirs. And once that goes out into public and you see how hard a guy's worked on his English and it's still not there, then people got upset and it kind of gained some traction. But in baseball, man, people get those things said to them on a daily basis. If your arm sucks, if your changeup sucks, if your English sucks, everything out there is just said to your face nonstop. So maybe I was just numb to it. But if I listened to that without knowing the response, I would have just been like, oh yeah, that's how people in baseball talk.
Yeah, there's no excuse for talking about somebody's language and them not being able to learn. There's just no excuse for that, man.
Yeah.
He had a comment though. This one was really it was so brain dead. He said, "We also have a television deal with Root Sports and we punch well above our weight on the TV deal. We had 60 games and we per game got a lot more than we probably deserved as compared to other similar sized markets. So it was a terrible year financially, but we did better than most of the other professional sports teams." So the fans are going, so why can't you pay more? Why can't you expand your budget? It was just dumb. He said, we actually have...
Root Sports are going, well, I can't wait to get to the negotiating table again. Fellas. Appreciate it.
Exactly. Yeah. That was just horrible. Yeah. On both ends, that was terrible.
Those TV deals are that's what's allowed teams to do these rebuilds and still pull in money. It's almost made attendance, a secondary factor in making money.
The Mariners they played utility infielders and players claimed off waivers in the outfield last year. And Kelenic, their prospect, his representatives were frustrated by the comments that were made about him being service time, him being kept down. This Mariners writer was talking about this. He said they felt there was minimal development taking place at their alternate training site last year, where that's the other thing is they kept him down last year and they didn't even get to play every day in AAA like the guys would in the past. So it was a lost year of development for them in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It could be. Not most of them weren't run as well, like as the sense I get as the Braves camp was. The Braves had a really good one this year. They had some good guys down there running that thing and playing those inter squads every day. And, they had good arms down there and some good hitters. They had good competition, but it wasn't the same as it would be in AAA. But I got a sense a lot of the teams didn't even have anything close to that. So it was a lost year for some of these people.
They kind of admitted that half the guys they had in that camp were never going to come, unless the whole team went down. None of those guys were coming to the big leagues. And that was another comment he made was even if they lost their whole team, Kelenic wasn't coming up. And it, just blatantly just stating, but I guess that's what's crazy is everybody's accepted the whole rebuild mindset. And then you're shocked how far teams are willing to go to keep that thing going.
Yeah. They asked him about Julio Rodriguez, who's their other top outfield prospect, and he said, Mather said, Julio Rodriguez has got a personality bigger than all of you combined. He is loud. His English is not tremendous. Everybody says he'll be here in 2021. He won't be here till 2022 or 2023.
Even if he hits 1,000.
Fantastic kid. We're really big on social media. He loves to get out in front. He loves the Mariners. And between him and Kelenic, we think we've got an outfield that will be as good as any in baseball for the next 6 or 7 years. He's the real deal. He's ranked higher than Kelenic. I said Kelenic doesn't lack for confidence. He's not happy that he's the 5th highest prospect in Baseball America, and Rodriguez is the 4th highest prospect. But little things like that bother Kelenic. mean, he said this stuff on
out loud.
Yeah, out loud. And this is
it does though. That pisses guys off. Me and Moylan never had to deal with any kind of ranking when we were coming up.
I never read my name in Baseball America, dude. I didn't know.
No, not. I don't even think they have an apostrophe in there.
And he said that although third baseman Kyle Seager will one day be inducted into the Mariners Hall of Fame, he's also overpaid. Seager signed a $100 million contract extension in December 2014 and will make $18 million in 2021. So he ain't overpaid right now with the way he played last year, right?
Yeah, I mean, just saying that stuff.
You don't say it, even if he is.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's just something that this was like a safe haven for him to just finally get to tell the truth of how he really feels, and then it made the internet, and he's just done.
So now you're gonna.
This is the conversation that front office people have amongst themselves every single day.
Yeah.
That's nothing new.
So you tell all your fans that, and then you're going to induct this guy into the Hall of Fame, and you're not going to think all your fans are going to think the first thing they're going to think about the guy was he was overpaid.
Pay us back. Give us back some of that money.
Hey, great, you're in, but you were overpaid. You know it. The president said so.
Just to I don't know. I mean, maybe he's in tight with that Rotary Club or something.
And here's what he said. You were talking about what he said. He was talking about dealing with Asian pitchers. He said, Mather said, for instance, we just rehired Iwakuma as a special assignment coach. He was a pitcher with us for a number of years. Wonderful human being. His English was terrible. He wanted to get back into the game. He came to us. We quite frankly want him as our Asian scout interpreter. What's going on with the Japanese league? He's coming to spring training. And I'm going to say, I'm tired of paying his interpreter. When he was a player, we'd pay Iwakuma X, but we'd also have to pay $75,000 a year to have an interpreter with him. His English suddenly got better. His English got better when we told him that.
I didn't hear that part.
Oh God!
I didn't.
Baseball.
I think some teams get frustrated when they feel like the effort's not in there. But man, if you gave me, I feel like I could go to Venezuela for 5-10 years and just still suck, no matter how hard I worked at it.
Absolutely.
So it's tough to gauge, and everybody's different. Like Nate McLouth was just fluent in Spanish. Mm-hmm. He took a couple classes in high school and just talked to guys in the outfield and picked it up like nothing.
Had a Latin roommate.
Yeah. There's some people just take to language faster. Their brains just work for it.
And the earlier you do it, the better.
Yeah.
They bring Japanese pitchers over. They're 30 years old. It's a hell of a lot harder to learn English than it would have been at 20 or 18, you know? Or you sign some of these guys at 16 and they're in your Dominican academy. And if you've got some organizations they have good interpreters down there and they're teaching them this stuff. But some organizations don't stress it. So they let these guys skate by and then they get over here and they expect them to learn English. By the meantime, they're trying to keep their heads above water in the major leagues and the best baseball league in the world against the best competition in the world. But also, you need to learn English while you're here. I mean, come on. If somebody dropped me in the middle of Mexico and asked me after, some particularly stressful day or some story that I had to write, could I explain it in Spanish because I've been taking Spanish lessons?
No chance.
I would say so many stupid things and fall all over myself and say something I didn't mean about my teammates or whatever. I don't blame guys at all that want to keep doing it for several years to keep doing it and have an interpreter because you don't want to say something that pisses people off because you said the wrong thing. When you don't,
especially in today's day and age.
Exactly. Everything goes viral.
Ichiro did it his whole career. Ichiro used a translator his entire career.
Even though he understood English.
He spoke perfect English. I mean, you'd expect him because I'd never interacted with him. I saw the interviews on TV.
Right.
And then when I was his temeate, he was just like, "What's up, Bo? How you doing today?"
He was smart enough to know that he didn't have to do them in English.
Yeah.
I would never criticize a guy for not learning English. I mean, especially when I only speak one language. We're so arrogant in America, 99% of us speak one language, but we expect anybody that comes over here to immediately learn our language. That's just bullshit, man.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get my mouth around the English language. My daughter is in first grade and she's learning nouns and pronouns, and I'm just like, whatever. Nope. I'm out. I don't want to hear anything about it. I still don't know that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't either. I grew up here.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway. All right, Moylo. Well, when are you going to bring your expertise to the Braves, Moylo? Maybe they need an assistant pitching coach. Hitting coaches, there's like three on every team now, but they still only have the pitching coach and a bullpen coach.
Yeah, well, I much like Chipper's career, I'm kind of mirroring his. I'm leaning more towards coaching than media this year, and yeah, I'm going to do the Fox Sports stuff, I'm sure. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed the coaching side of things this year.
I think you were good at it. You look like you were good at it on the videos I saw. Arm around a young guy, explaining stuff to him. You look like you fit.
That's very. It's fun. It's fun watching these guys. It's because I obviously can't do anything myself anymore, so it's fun. It's you're totally out of control once they leave the dugout, but it's fun watching guys develop. I had a guy that was basically the level that I was pitching at when I signed initially, like the beer league that I was playing in. He was in Division 2 of this beer league.
Wow.
And now he's signed with the Dodgers, throwing 94 to 96, 6'7", 6'8". Looks like Tyler Glasnow. So he's going over for his first year of Pro Bowl this year. Another guy with the Royals who was a positional player that jumped on the mound is all of a sudden throwing 94 to 96, and he's having his first year of Pro Bowl. So it's fun seeing these guys come out of nowhere and being able to develop into guys that have some success.
What about all these Aussies, man, in the majors now? I mean, I know it's not like the Dominican or anything, but there's quite a few of them. There used to be like none or one or two, right?
I think the most we had at one time was 3 or 4, but yeah. Well, it's just Hendricks now, right?
Isn't there a couple others? There's only him? Really?
That's only him.
Maybe he's
Yeah.
just prominent. Maybe I just see interviews with him all the time and I hear the Aussie accent.
He's arguably the best reliever in the game right now.
Oh, yeah.
And he was 12 months ago. He was sent down. He was designated for assignment.
That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I think he's surpassed our boy in Milwaukee as the best guy right now, the best reliever. But they wore him out in Milwaukee, man. And you're right. Yeah, Hader's they just wore his ass out. I don't blame him because he was so good. But geez,
Well, yeah, he was going multiple innings back
ridiculous.
to back.
It was crazy.
That's kind of like
now?
He's
just not quite got the same life on his fastball.
Yeah.
And guys have seen him; he's getting hit a little bit, but
Hendricks is.
I always think that's interesting too. Did you guys see Garrett Cole talking about how teams are using analytics to kind of keep salaries down and all that stuff? I always think it'd be funny.
I saw clips of it, but I haven't seen the whole thing.
He's just talking about how they have their numbers and they know when to call you up, same stuff we're talking about, how to manipulate it so they get you prime for as cheap as possible. But I was thinking a guy like Hader, if he had some analytics on when he was supposed to pitch or not, that's the difference between having a boss and whatnot. But if he's like, I can't pitch till Wednesday now because I got a computer that says my arm hasn't fully recovered.
Pete, when Aussies look at that contract Hendricks got, you think it could get one or two more guys want to maybe try baseball when they see that, and you can make a hell of a lot more money doing it than rugby?
How much they make in rugby?
I don't know. No, I mean, the highest paid guy maybe makes a couple mil. Yeah, it's still hard to get that.
Yeah,
I spent 11 years in the big leagues, and
yeah.
So it's not like it's not like
I'm not saying it's reality.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's reality, but they can see it at least and identify, hey, he's one of us. He's making $50 million in America.
I preach on social media all the time, and I try and tag as many Australian media outlets as I can every time he did something good on the field over the last 12 months, whether it was the All-Star game, whatever it was. But the amount of attention that he got after signing that deal was a lot different than just having some success on the field, because people don't understand what success is in Australia.
Right.
They just look at the numbers and think, okay, great. But they see 56 million or 54 million. They know what that is.
They understand that.
Yeah.
But even look at Tatis' contract, and baseball's losing kids every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. That's good. You're right. That aspect's good. Young guy sees how much money you can make, and whether it's realistic or not, you just see that money, those figures, and go, "Wow, that's like NBA money there." All right, listen, Pete. We'll have you back. You're gonna have to commit to doing this regularly with us, right? We'll have the check in the mail.
Yeah.
Checks in the mail.
Of course it is. With all the rest of them. I've been signing a minor league deal with you guys the whole time I've been here too. So it's about time you guys called me up, you know.
Well, we appreciate
Boil
it.
some
Stop
guaranteed
manipulating my
money.
salary.
Your service time's being manipulated. But we do appreciate it. And our fans love it. Obviously, the listeners love it. They, I don't know
I wouldn't
why.
do it for anyone else. You guys are the best.
All right. Well, that's it. We'll do this again next week, and we'll talk about what's happened so far in camp. I'm going to be down there for the
There's
first
game Sunday, Dave.
I know. I'll be there. I'll be there at Port Charlotte. And then the next day in Fort Myers against the Red Sox. Got the Rays and the Red Sox. I don't know.
You got yourself a nice little Airbnb on the beach down there,
Some
Dave?
some flea bag motel in Venice. My style. All right. That's it. We're out. 7:55 is real. Hank, rest in peace, Hank.